Willkommen zurück zu Malsky no Yoru. Wir fangen jetzt mit Part 2 an. Es tut mir leid, dass ich die letzten 2 Teile gestreamt habe, aber Freitag habe ich irgendwie wenig Lust gehabt darauf und gestern hatte ich Kopfschmerzen, als ich streamen wollte, weil ich zu viel getrunken habe an den Tag. Das heißt, wir machen heute weiter. Wobei ich nicht weiß, wie lange ich heute streamen werde, weil ich habe gerade angefangen zu kochen und habe gerade die Knödel fertig geformt. Und dachte ich mache mal eine Pause mit, okay. Natürlich ist dieser Teil gesperrt. Dann würde ich sagen, machen wir weiter. Waren wir nicht schon? Ja. Yep. Da waren wir schon.
Ja. Hi.
Ja.
So?
Okay.
Ja.
Transferstudent, ja, das wissen wir schon.
Nani? Au? Betsu ni. Ja, nante?
Poor Aoko.
Uwa, Oma, sore to.
Poor teacher. Hier bin ich voll Hauer. Ja, da waren wir auch schon. Yep, da waren wir auch schon. Der Robinson-Crusoe-Vergleich hat man auch schon.
電気がないって村に行き渡っていないだけで公衆電話ぐらい
なかったそうだよ。こっちに暮らすようになってまず驚いたのが電話だそうだし、電話って便利ですねなんて真顔で言われてね。そういえばそうだな。
そいつ学校も知らないんです。
うん。どんなものかは知っていたそうだけど、実際来るのは今日が初めてだし。
Ja, wir wissen, dass nicht talkative ist.
怖いな、青崎くん。冗談だって。大丈夫。話してみた感じ、おとなしい子だったから。なんていうか、 言葉の通じない小動物みたいな感じ？
Dieser Satz einfach. Er ist wie ein süßes Tier.
山城先生、その例え気休めになってませんから。
Ja, dachte ich mir. Ja, wir waren schon da, was die Tür öffnete.
いや、君を信頼してる僕だ。あ、いや。
Be nice, please.
分かってるわよ、愛想が悪いってのは。でも笑顔なんて意識して作るものじゃないんだし。だいたいそういうインスタントな人付き合いなら飛び丸の方が向いてるって。
She's thinking about the social shortcoming, but then it occurred to her that being called into school one day, off while sleep deprived, wasn't anything to smile about anyway. So.
いや、間がわ。
Sie ist Viren. She just looked straight ahead and stormed into the room and found herself face to face with the most unusual opponent. Are you my master? Before we go on, let's see from our perspective. You don't have to do anything. For some, these were priceless luxury. For others, they are unbearable torture. For the productive girl, it was definitely the former, though she would be too suspicious of the motives of anyone given such a gift to accept it. For the passive boy, it was definitely the later. A bitter thorn that made him homesick, though at this very moment his mind will still distract with the wait for his face to reveal any discontent. He maintained perfect posture as he started at the grey sky. He had already waited a whole hour, but figured they must have had reasons for making him wait. And as long as he had the sound of the rain to soothe him, he could keep on waiting.
でも、そろそろ9時を過ぎるのか。どうなんだろう。
He had been vaguely keeping track of time as he listened to the rain. Due to the holiday, the school building was completely silent, except for the pattern of the rain on the window. The mood felt as damp as the air. It was then. He heard the heavy clatter of footsteps approaching.
忘れられているかと思った。
He could hear two sets of footsteps, one heavier that belonged to an adult. He breathed a sigh of relief as the door slid open.
すまないね。随分とお待たせしちゃって。
The first person he saw was a man wearing glasses and an awkward smile. Then Mr. Yamashiro. Yamashiro. Ich glaube, wir haben dein Haar vergessen. Kann es sein, dass wir dein Haar vergessen haben? Hey, was bist das Tatsunaka? I told you to keep your company. You shouldn't have left you here. Mr. Yamashiro scrounged his head and looking increasingly apologetic. Ich will kurz ein Foto machen, wie sie bei Yamashiro schreiben. And then, from behind him, what a tight-lipped expression that made it clear she didn't want to be there. A dark-haired girl with determined look in her eyes appeared. Sojiro gulped. The sound of the rain on the window faded to nothingness. That's when he knew this was how it felt when time stood still. Liebe auf den ersten Blick. She blinked quickly a few times as if taken aback. Why was anyone's guess? The boy was everything she expected, a naive country boy to look like, however she felt something she couldn't understand. His eyes widened slightly as if taken aback. The reason was obvious. Putting his feelings to words was different matter altogether, so we will never know exactly what he experienced in that moment. Servus, Timo! That's when it hit him. Und wie geht's? He sensed he would be touched by the hands of destiny.
紹介するよ。彼が転入生の静木宗十郎君。
Die haben schon wieder das Haar vergessen.
で、こっちの彼女が静木君の案内役。うちの生徒会長で休日を押して新しい仲間の案内役を買って出てくれた青崎青子くんだ。
His voice and the sun's rain seemed distant. This is how they first met. Such was the start, for better or worse, like the ephemeral beauty of fireworks. Mir geht's relativ. Mein PC ist kaputt. Wie ich schon auf Discord beklagt habe. It was commonly believed among the students that Aoko was always in a foul mood. But this gossip was 90% prejudice, as Aoko simply didn't have the time to irritate 24/7. The reality was she simply didn't want to explain herself all the time, and therefore seemed angry about something obvious or not. The other gossip did, however, lead to her earning the title of one of the school's 7 deadly threats. Also sie haben 6 Schüler wie Aoko? The remaining 10% of the gossip was right on the mark. Aoko herself often had the feeling that her tendency to feel animosity towards harmless things was akin to what the chronic headache suffered might experience. Tude fell under that 10%, for Tude her anger was pure, and a childish and selfish display was befitting of her actual age. The meeting room was dimly lit, awash in the colors of the rain. The reduced electricity caused school regulations forbid the use of lights during the day. This was setting the 3 of them found itself in. Her first impression was that his calm demeanor reminded her of a field of wildflowers. In spite of his perfect posture, he seemed subdued and frail. And though describing him as meek would be going too far, at the very least he was passive. Even though his uniform, she could see that he was thinner than average. His dark hair was unkempt and he came across as wholly forgettable. Boy. Poor boy. If she had looked at him a more positive light, she would describe him more a young man than a boy. It was his calm demeanor that made him seem more mature. Was it the cause of Aoko's reasonless reaction? He seemed almost too at home in the meeting room, and she was left with the impression that it was her and the teacher, not this outsider, who were the guests here. She felt an unidentified aggravation building with her, almost if her right to be here was in question. I have a bad feeling about this. Aoko felt herself rising her natural defenses. She hated not understanding things, her own emotions in particular. It pained her less than you would imagine for a perfectionist like her, but still nagged her like a thorn in her side. Mr. Yamashiro's attempt to relieve the tension was equally irritating. After casting a nasty deck glance in the teacher's direction, Aoko turned to face the boy. From an outsider's perspective, it might have looked like a stare down. At that instant, the combination of her emotional state hurled her toward the innocent boy and skewered him. Oh.
いや、待たせたね、しずきくん。
Hearing his name, Sushu came to his senses. His stunned gaze shook loose. He took a deep breath to clear his head. Chalking it up to nerves, Mr. Yamashu broke out a smile and turned to the girl standing beside him.
紹介するよ。彼が転入生のしずき宗十郎くん。で、こっちの彼女がしずきくんの案内役。うちの生徒会長で休日を押して新しい仲間の案内役を買って出てくれた青崎青子くんだ。
Having been introduced by Yamashiro, the girl took a step forward. Her eyes were merciless. Her stern and unspoken threat to violently trample her opponent. Sushiro, on the other hand, managed to keep his own composure despite the shock at how confrontational she appeared. He had never been greeted quite like this before, but I supposed, mistakenly, that this was how people treated each other in the city. Oh. Da hatte er schon einen guten Eindruck. The exchange must have looked quite romantic to an onlooker. A girl ready to brawl. An earnest country boy desperate to understand. It was a murderous limbo, especially for anyone in the room with them. Like Yamashiro, for example. But he had thought he had made the right decision in choosing an honor student to help him out. She was an inexplicably bad mood, and the tension in the air was undeniable. It was that moment that he realized his failure. His realization had come far too late. Ja. Darauf hätte doch gleich kommen können. One false move and this girl, for whom no problem was too large, would become a storm and would rock the very foundations of the school. Just as the almighty Joker card could bring even fortune and disaster, the sole teacher who had been present at the time would come to bear the blame for the scandal that ensued.
イケてる。二人とも気は合うようだね。それじゃあ僕はこの辺でいいかな。
Mr. Yamashiro laughed nervously as he crept toward the door. Oh man. Feigling. Was für ein Feigling.
青崎くん、くれぐれもだぜ。なんていうか、生徒会長としての度量の広さをこの際僕に信じさせてほしいから。
Wenn Blicke töten könnten. Mr. Yamashiro left, leaving the two in a locked-eyed state. One in which one set of eyes was doing all the glaring. All in the remaining room was a naive boy and a cross-armed guarded girl. The two lingered in silence. They resembled shogi players agonizing over the first moves, though ultimately it was only Aoko that had considered the scene that carefully. She decided to put her irritation aside for the time being. With no reason to feel revulsion for him, the first place she sighed deeply and faced Sojiro.
まあいいわ。山城先生がヒルアンドンなのは今に始まったことじゃないし。それで、あなた名前は?
Her tone was nothing if not reproachful. Thought he had done nothing to offend her, but the boy failed to pick up on it. An example of such venom himself.
ああ、しずき宗十郎かな。君は青崎さんだったね。
For whatever reason, he came across as happy in his response.
さあはいいわ。柄じゃないから。こっちはしずきくんでいい？
いいって何が？
だから呼び方。くん付けでいいかって聞いてるの。何？おかしなこと言った？私。
いや、すごく。
The boy replied immediately, as it was natural response, but quickly second-guessed himself.
いや、いいんだ。 ごく一般的なんだろう。しずきくんで頼む。君は青崎でいいんだよな。
よろしく。
She followed a blunt reply with a swift turn away from him. But she was hardly thrilled at the prospect of the task at hand. It had been entrusted to her, and it was her personal policy to see it through to the end.
悪いけど優しくしてあげる気はないから。時間も惜しいし手早く行くわよ。
それは助かる。やっぱり時間は大切だ。
Aokos' blunt rancor was lost on him once again. Ich liebe Aokos Gesichtsausdrücke. Humans tend to be overly conscious about being ignorant whatever from the text. But despite being peeved at landing none of her attacks, Aoko did her best to act professional and direct her guest into the hallway. There was no sunlight in the hallway, nor any sign of life. This was more like a prison than a cave. That was the meeting room. As it dawned, Aoko the hallway matched her mood. She sighed once again.
まず聞いておくけど、山城先生から聞いたことは理解してる？
ああ、学校の仕組みについては分かった。この建物全部に同い年の人間がいるなんてちょっと想像できないけど。
そう、よかったわね。
Aoko rubbed her forehead. The Sojiro kid had no idea what he was in for. Apparently all he would hear about school was that a place where a lot of people meet to study. High school teachers imparted students their knowledge in various fields of study, while fostering discipline and creativity. But never did Aoko mention that she would have to explain the concept of school itself to someone. Yes, fundamentals were important, but this was absurd. She had seriously doubts wherever he could even handle classes, but Shiro insisted that things would work out somehow. So Shiro had managed to pass the transfer exam after all. Barely.
私には関係ないけど。
Aoko grumbled mentally as she walked down the hallway. She consoled herself with the fact that today would be the only day she would spend with this boy out of time, or at least she would try to keep it that way. Ich würde mal sagen, das, was sie über die Geschichte weiß, wird das nicht so der Fall sein. He asked calmly, trying to get her attention.
こっちも一つ聞いていいかな。
だから何？
俺の気のせいだと思うんだが、君はまるで何かを睨んでいるように見える。やはり今朝は悪いものでな。
His gaze revealed earnest concern as if asking her if she remembered to eat breakfast. Das Gesicht! Diese Frau macht mich fertig. It was like another hammer to her head. It was true. Aoko had been glaring at Soshiro the entire time. Glaring red hot daggers in effect. Not just at him, but the universe. Even on the best days, the roommate used to remark.
青子の視線は普通の人には厳しいわ。もう少し多くのことに寛大になるべきね。
Shippy wanted the emotions was so naked on her face that people treated her like a powder keg. How on earth could the boy be that he could not pick up on this?
私をバカにしてるってわけじゃなさそうよね、この場合。
Even she found her own attempt to reassure herself unconvincing. It began to draw on Aoko far too late. That compared to her, this laid-back transfer student might as well have been from another planet.
いいわ。言葉にしないとわからないようだから言うけど、まるでじゃなくて、ズバリそうなの。あなたの気のせいじゃなくて、私は視線で遠回しに感情を表現してたの。いちいち声に出すのも会話にするのも面倒だから。
In response to words, the Martian clapped his hands together.
なるほど。どうしてそうしたいのかはわからないが、確かにそっちの方が手っ取り早い意思表現だ。
Soshiro accepted the reasoning without argument, though he still had the idea what Cat's emotion she was trying to express. It was if he could hear the words but didn't grasp the meaning. Ideas that should have been connected were instead separated into blocks.
確かにずれてるわ、こいつ。
Mr. Bashiro's words made sense to her now. What was odd about this boy went way beyond naivety. A stranger in a strange land he may be, but it was only civilized to forgive him some jet lag in inductive confusion.
じゃ、とりあえずあなたの教室に行くから。
She had regained her composure, so she raised his hand and stopped in his tracks.
あと一つ。
Aoko waited for Soshiro to continue. The boy was patient to afford. She rubbed her forehead with her hand again, nursing a vague feeling of uneasiness.
これもちょっとした疑問なんだが、なんで君は怒ってるんだ？怒るのが商売とか、そういう家柄の人なのか？
Junge, Pulverfass, Feuer! Schon mal was davon gehört? A long silence. Though she knew it wouldn't change the circumstances, she remembered her regretted answering the phone that morning. He meant no harm. She repeated this thought like a mantra in the attempt to keep her impulses in check.
別にあなたのせいじゃないから気にする必要はないわ。ただこの一瞬とお昼まで眠っていた場合を計りにかけたらあまりに利益の違いがあって頭を抱えただけよ。
With that vague answer, she started to walk again, and turned her gaze away from the rude stranger named Tsuchiro Shizuki. While what constitutes normal is certainly up for debate, most would undoubtedly refer to him as so. He was a simple and nice boy with nondescript features. If he were an ice cream flavor, he would be vanilla. Dann würde ich ihn gerne essen. And Soshiro found Aokos could be very businesslike and full of life. There was sure to propose to a movement as they began and ended in an ordinary fashion. The way her finger raised when she pointed at things, the way she made her way across the hallways and classrooms, the way she would occasionally glance back at him to make sure he was keeping pace. Each and every moment was so impressive that he couldn't take his eyes off her. Aokos showed him his homeroom, Class C of the 11th grade. The room was certainly displayed more of a human touch than the previous meeting room, but Soshiro was none the wiser as to its function. Aokos gave a brief explanation before they visited individual subject classrooms as well as the gym, cafeteria, locker room and the school infirmary. Soshiro asked so many questions that much time passed before they reached the AV room on the second floor. Soshiro stopped looking genuinely concerned. It's 20 to 1 already.
嘘でしょ？うちの校舎そんな広くないわよ。
The tour had begun around 10, which meant that 3 hours had passed. A tour of a school shouldn't take anywhere near this long.
そうだったわね。行く先々で根掘り葉掘り聞かれちゃ、そりゃ何時間でも経つわ。
Aokos glared at Soshiro. He was being sarcastic, knowing full well he would never pick up on it. You see? To her surprise, he looked down, apologetically unable to hide his dejection. The guy before now was nothing like earlier. In contrast to seeing his once impenetrable demeanor when they first met, she found herself feeling sympathetic. Momentarily at least, until the tension returned full force.
で、何がまずいの？覚えることが多すぎてパンクしたなんて言わないでね。
いや、それもあるけど、学校のことは別にして一時になるとまずいんだ。
Social's gaze wondered is worried about something. If he worried about the weather, he would have had a hard time seeing in and there was no windows in the hallway.
へえ、時間を気にするってことは用事があるのね。そう。人の予定を引っかき回しておいて、自分だけ好きなようにやろうって言うんだ。なんだ、顔に似合わずいい人ね、君。
いや、褒めても何も出ないぞ。
誰も褒めちゃいないわよ。
Das Gesicht! Das Gesicht! She added him, unable to hold back her fury.
で？
それで、一体何の用なの
？Social's face lit up as he finally understood what she was asking him.
そこは秘密にしておきたい。
He said it with a perfectly straight face.
慣れ始めたつもりだったけど、こいつのこういったテンポに失神しそうになるわ。
Her frustration was natural. Still, she did everything she could to stifle her feelings and fake a smile.
しずきくん？
She took a step forward.
秘密だってば。
Feeling the mood change drastically, so she took a step back. And another. No matter how many steps he took back, she kept edging toward him. She was smiling, but he thought he could see the blood boiling beneath her skin.
これ、最後の質問にしとくわね。あなた、私をからかって楽しい？
He had no intention of mocking her, though at this point he dubbed presenting any evidence to prove this would much to erase the forced smile on her face.
説明する？
His arm raised to surrender. She halted her advance and freed her face from that unseemly smile.
実は1時からアルバイトがあるんだ。でもここはそういうの禁止なんだろ？
そうだけど、あ、禁止されてるから秘密にしようと思ったの？バカね。それなら許可さえ下りていれば問題ないわよ。
Dweeb? Was soll bitte Dweeb heißen?
知ってる。試験の時に許可をもらってる。
へえ。
August face lit up. She realized she might not be a piece of work she thought him to be yet.
しかし、許可は一つしかもらえなかった。
一つって、あなた掛け持ちでバイトしてるの？
これでも2件減らしたんだ。生活費だけで大変なのに学費まで稼がなくちゃいけない。なのに働き先は一つだけというのはあんまりだと思わないか？
いや、あんまりなのはあなたの方だと思うけど。
Though suddenly her opinion of him changed little. She was impressed that he was able to take care of his tuition and living expenses all on his own. She could also empathize with having no time for herself. Her anger began to subside. The words part-time job were about the last thing she would ever expected to hear out of this country boy's mouth.
そういうことなら仕方ないわね。いいわ、行きなさいよ。事情は分かったから。
青崎はいいのか？
She had no idea if this question meant, but she at least understood he was trying to be considerate, which also took her by surprise. She figured he would just be as dense about people's feelings as he was about everything else.
別に、私もこのまま帰るから。
First though, she thought it was best that they both stopped the faculty room Mr. Bashir had mentioned that the transfer producers had already been completed, so that all the band was for him to sign off her duties.
先生、案内終わりました。
それはお疲れ様。しずきくんもお疲れ様。それで校舎を回った感想はどうかな。
ありがとうございます。なんというか、とても学校ですね。
It's like a real school. The school is a real school.
そうかそうか。うん、明日から頑張りなさい。
She had no interest in whatsoever in the pointless wrap-up meeting.
山城先生のことは気にしないでいいわ。教え子に厄介なことを押し付けてふんぞり返っているぐらい職員室が好きなんだから、何時間でも待ってるでしょ。いや、待ってるべきじゃない？
そうか。青崎がいいんならいいんだな。
There it was again. Whatever she was getting at, I had no idea.
それじゃあ行くよ。今日はありがとう。
今日だけよ、今日だけ。
She only shooted him away with her hand. His face bent into a broad smile as he found the gesture endearing. It was a soft expression that she had grown accustomed to seeing out of him. It was the kind of smile that would make anyone smile back. Well, most people at least. Aoko Saki didn't betray the slightest hint of a smile.
それじゃあまた。
And with that friendly farewell, so she walked toward the end of the hallway. Oh, so she thought he turned into the next class over. Did he just... So she had it right from one of the classroom windows. Were pretty opened with ease. The chilly November air filled the room with the soft sounds of the rain, doubled in volume. And it is clear as this detection with opening the window. She really wished she hadn't.
いや、待て待て待て!
He already had one leg out of the window. Then she dashed to stop him.
何するつもりよ、あんたは。
何ってアルバイトに行くんだけど。
その窓は人が出入りするところじゃないの。だいたいここ何階だと思ってるの？
She saw the light of understanding dawn in his eyes.
死ぬところだった。2階から降りたら危なすぎる。
危ないのはあんたの頭。
Das stimmt. Hers went right over his head.
あのね、こっちじゃ窓から人は出入りしないの。さっき言っとくべきだったわ。
知ってるよ。時間がないんで慌ててたんだ。ありがとう。これからは気をつける。
Springt der ernsthaft auf. He put his leg back inside and closed the window. His school uniform was soaking wet from the rain.
いいけど、私は別に。あなたがどこから外に出ようが関係ないもの。ただ、できれば私の前ではやらないでほしいだけよ。
Nett!
それより、あなた、本当に明日から学校に来るの？
来るよ。不安だけど、案内してもらったし。
He bit her farewell before running away down the hallway. She hoped he would walk down the stairs and leave through the school entrance like a normal person.
大丈夫なのか、あんな。
The image of him disappearing into the distance popped into her head, in spite of her ear. Yeah, she had no intention of spending any more time with him, and yet she felt strangely anxious. She couldn't tell if the feeling was fueled by concern or irritation. Why had she even gotten angry with his insignificant transfer student in the first place? A strange day, with strange affairs resulting in strange emotions. Her head tilted as she reflected on what should have been a more enjoyable day than the irritating experience she just had.
いっか。どうせこれっきりなんだし。
The sound of the rain echoed quietly all around her. The grey skies seemed frozen in time. It was impossible to discern whether it was morning or evening. Mr. Bashir and Oko were likely the only ones left the school. The unlit classroom looked over gloomy and ominous as Oko stood in it alone. She pulled up her left sleeve. Her daily unremarkable watch showed that it was almost 1 o'clock.
時間合ってる。
She looked out the window at the grounds below. She saw the boy in uniform running through the rain without an umbrella. She must have seen before, but for whatever reason affected her far more than she wished. Aoko did not stop by the faculty room before heading home. While Mr. Yamashiro offered to drive her home was tempting, she decided it would undoubtedly be far more satisfying to ruin his day just as he had hers. She walked as quietly as she could towards the entrance and opened her bright red umbrella. She had predicted the morning the rain was waning in the afternoon. At this rate it would be probably case completely in an hour or so. The distance action would likely have reached her by the time she arrives home.
ま、それも悪くないか。
She shrugged her shoulders in resignation. She neither liked nor disliked rain, but she found herself enjoying her walk home with her red umbrella in hand. Her teachers at Misaki High School weren't fond of bright colors, so Aoko's umbrella was an unusual sight. A ghost story about how the umbrella was once pure white had been making it rounds, but it featured Aoko instead of a ghost. Meine Fresse! Meine Fresse! Ich würde diese Ghost Story gerne hören. It was with the umbrella that she made her way towards Misaki Station. The private Misaki High School got its name from the town of the same name. The area was once a sprawl of farmland and woodland, but rapid growth over the last 10 years had led to unprecedented modernization. There were some who fought to preserve Misaki's national treasures.
残すことには賛成ですが、それでは残すだけになってしまうでしょう。
With those words, the major snuffed out the voices of minority and ushered in a long-term plan for the new urban development. More than enough funds for the urban development were collected. And the unassuming town of Misaki became the largest municipality of Misaki City only merely 10 years. Even though it lacked the modernity of neighborhood Yashirogi or the elegance of Misaki Hills.
それも当然よね。どういじくっても、もともとが山中の宿場町だし、山ごと切り崩すって言うんなら別だけど。
Urbanization had been contained to the lowlands around the station, with most of the hills and the mountains still standing as they did 10 years prior. The exhaustion of funds succeeded in protecting the old Misaki, resist it could not. It became a truly odd suburban town, welcoming an increasingly urban population, with its vestige of an old country charm. Misaki High School was a private school established long before the town's current state. The original campus, built 50 years ago, was located high up in the mountains, making school education its second incarnation. The path to old grounds was remote, steep and well trodden by animals. For these reasons, among others, Misaki High School had been shuttered until almost 20 years ago, when it received a donation from a department store chain that allowed the construction of a new campus in the city. And thus Misaki High School reopened its doors, the old woodland campus forgotten. In fact, most of the students attending Misaki High School were not from Misaki at all. The hearty, rustic people of this country town preferred prefectural schools to private ones. Truth be told, Aoko herself was one of them. All she wanted after junior high was to move to Tokyo, where she hoped to spend her days enjoying live music on her way to entering a public university. But the hopes were dashed with her sister's departure, so here she was, walking alone in a town with only a red umbrella to keep her company on what should have been a day off.
思い返してみると、私の人生ってなんか災難続きっぽい。
Her frustration evaporated in the cold December air.
でもま、いっか。退屈だけはしないわけだし。
With those words, her mood brightened a bit as she left the school in her wake. The bruiser part of the town met her bottom of the gently sloping road. Misaki's train station was brand new. Once looking no prettier than an abandoned factory, it had been renovated into a multi-purpose structure with huge department stores on its east and west sides. When the department stores first opened, Oko and her friends had been impressed with their modern feel, but in time, the stores too became dated. She had no shopping to do today, so she passed them by. What she really wanted to do was to rest at a cafe, but she fought the urge, knowing her roommate would never let her hear the end of it if she frittered away her money. She looked back and blinked. For just a moment she could have sworn she had seen someone suspicious in a red dress out of the corner of her eye. Toko? Hey? It must have been a big relation. The sixth sense chill was experiencing down her spine was a familiar one at this point. She continued her walk home, brushing off the event as if it never happened. In time, the truth is, all that was left was the sound of the town. She sighed heavily. Had she imagined it? Even if it had all been in her head, she was far from comfortable with the feeling that that still lingered.
夏場の方ってもう少しこう。
She grumbled under her breath.
波乱万丈、商売繁盛、商業無常と。そうそう、忙しさに愚痴を言っても始まらないわ。
Unfortunately, summer and bugs go hand in hand. She could see how bugs could be drawn to all the sweet fruit. Ranked with recently, the kitchen was closed for the time being. The lunch rush had come and gone, but one last battle remained: dinner time. Only after the evening chaos could the kitchen crew remove their white armor and call it a day. In the midst of war zone was the lone newcomer. His voice was uneasy, betraying how new he was. Und ich will sagen, das ist perfekt, um abzuspeichern.
Kimochi wa wakaru. 俺もどうかと思うけど、店長の言うことだから、もう笑顔で乗り越えてくれ。これも商店街の明日のためなんだとよ。本気で申し訳ないんだが、雨も止んだし、なんとか言って。
So. Wir machen dann im nächsten Part weiter mit Witch on the Holy Night. Dama adios und Pfiat.